Hello students, welcome back to the new video from Gokuldham International School. In today's video we are going to start and cover the chapter name is Anatomy of Flowering Plants, in which we will discuss about what is anatomy, and then we will discuss the certain different types of tissue and the characteristic of the tissue and function of the tissue. So let us start with the what is the anatomy. So the anatomy is the study of internal organization of living organism known as anatomy. Anatomy is the branch of science in which we study about the internal organization of living organism, and another term is histology. So the study of tissue and tissue system in multicellular organism is known as histology. So my dear students, the anatomy means the study of internal organization of living organism. मीन्स कोई भी लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म का हम इंटरनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन स्टडी करते हैं, उस ब्रांच को हम एनाटॉमी बोलते हैं. सो इन टुडेज चैप्टर वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस अबाउट द एनाटॉमी ऑफ फ्लावरिंग प्लांट्स. मीन्स जो फ्लावरिंग प्लांट्स है उसकी इंटरनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के बारे में हम आज इस वीडियो में स्टडी करेंगे. सो फर्स्ट थिंग इज टिश्यू. सो व्हाट इज टिश्यू? Tissue is a group of cells having common origin and function. So what is the tissue? Tissue is the group of cells which having common origin and have a similar function, or for the particular function. So there is two type of tissue. First one is a meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. In previous classes we discussed about meristematic tissue. Now we will discuss about permanent tissue. So there is two type of permanent tissue. First one is a simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. In simple permanent tissue there is three different type of tissue is there. First one is a parenchyma cell, then Sclerenchyma cell and Sclerenchyma cell. And in complex permanent tissue there is two different types of tissue is there. First one is a xylem and second one is a phloem. Three basic type of plant tissue is permanent parenchyma tissue, Sclerenchyma tissue and Sclerenchyma tissue. So let us see the function and characteristic of this tissue, simple permanent tissue. So these are the cross section of the permanent tissue. First one is a parenchyma tissue in which intercellular space is there and the cell wall is thick, where in a Sclerenchyma cell the cell wall is thick and thin and irregular, and in Sclerenchyma cell the cell wall is thick and it is a lignified. It is also known as stone cell wall with the lignin. So let us see the characters and function of these tissues. Now second point is meristematic tissue. The tissue which continuously divide is known as meristematic tissue, and they have the ability to divide and redivide. First is a characteristic of tissue, meristematic tissue. Means what are the characteristic of this meristematic tissue? So the first characteristic of meristematic tissue is cells are thin wall. Means the cell wall of this wall of that cell, particular cell having thin cell wall, have abundant cytoplasm. Means they have abundant cytoplasm. They retain the power of division. Means they have power of division, and there is no intercellular space found in this type of tissue. And this meristematic tissue is found at the tip of the root and tip of the shoot. So this is the section of meristematic tissue of shoot and root. Now classification of meristematic tissue based on position of the plant body. Means this meristematic tissue is divided on the base of their position in the plant body. First type is apical meristem, which occur at the tip of the plant. Means the apical meristem is present at the apex and differentiate into primary tissues. And when these cells of this apical meristem are mature and it convert into differentiate and into primary tissues, it cases increases in the length. Means it the result of these divisions in apical meristem it result into the increases in length. मीन्स ये एपिकल मेरिस्टेम है जो कि प्लांट के लेंथ को इंक्रीजेस करने में ज़्यादा हेल्पफुल होता है. देन एक्सेलरी बड आर प्रेजेंट इन द एक्सिल ऑफ द लीव्स. मीन्स जो एक्सेलरी बर्ड्स होते हैं उसमें भी ये मेरिस्टेमिक सेल प्रेजेंट होते हैं एट द एक्सिल ऑफ द लीव्स. You can see in this picture, this is the picture of apical meristem. Now second type of meristematic tissue is lateral meristem, arranged parallel to the side of organ of the plant. Means it arrange the parallel to the side of the organs of plants. The cells produced by them differentiate into secondary tissue. Means जो सेल्स प्रोड्यूस होते हैं लेटरल मेरिस्टेम से वो सेकेंडरी टिश्यू में कन्वर्ट होते हैं. इट केस द इंक्रीजेस इन विथ ऑफ द प्लांट ऑर्गन. मतलब प्लांट की जो वेट होती है उसे इंक्रीजेस करने में सबसे बड़ा जो कि रोल होता है वो लेटरल मेरिस्टेम का होता है. और लेटरल मेरिस्टेम इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर द इंक्रीजेस इन विथ ऑफ द प्लांट ऑर्गन. Examples of lateral meristem is fascicular cambium and cork cambium. You can see in this picture that the internal it shows the internal structure of plant stem, where it shows the vascular bundles, cortex and fascicular cambiums, which is surrounded by the phloem and xylem. And when this fascicular cambium, two fascicular cambiums joined by the intrafascicular cambiums, where they have meristematic role or meristematic tissue which divide and form secondary tissue. Now third type of meristematic tissue is intercalary meristem. Meristem occur in between the mature and permanent tissue. Means जो मेरिस्टेम मैच्योर एंड परमानेंट टिश्यू के बीच में होता है उसे मैच्योर टिश्यू के बीच में होता है उसे हम बोलेंगे इंटरकैलरी मेरिस्टेम. इट प्रोड्यूस द सेल दैट फॉर्म अ प्राइमरी टिश्यू. मीन्स ये इंटरकैलरी मेरिस्टेम है वो सेल प्रोड्यूस टू फॉर्म प्राइमरी टिश्यू. मीन्स इट विल फॉर्म प्राइमरी टिश्यू एंड इट केस द इंक्रीजेस इन द लेंथ. मीन्स ये जो इंटरकैलरी मेरिस्टेम है वो प्लांट की ग्रोथ मीन्स लेंथ को इंक्रीज करने में हेल्पफुल होता है. एंड दिस इंटरकैलरी मेरिस्टेम अकर एट द बेस ऑफ इंटरनोड एंड लीफ सेट ऑफ द ग्रासेस एंड इन अदर मोनोकोट्स दे रीजनरेट पार्ट्स रिमूव्ड बाय ग्रेजिंग. मीन्स दिस इंटरकैलरी मेरिस्टेम आर यूजफुल इन द रीजनरेटिंग द रिमूव्ड बाय द ग्रेजिंग. मीन्स जो पार्ट प्लांट्स एंड ग्रास में जो प्लांट्स ग्रेजिंग के वक्त जो रिमूव होता है उसे रिगेन करने में इंटरकैलरी मेरिस्टेम प्ले अ इम्पोर्टेंट रोल टू रीजनरेट दिस organ. So the area between the nodes is known as internode, and you can see the zone of elongation where intercalary meristems are present, and which is important, or which is so these intercalary meristem are responsible for the elongation of internode. You can see in this figure of bamboos where its red color portion shows the intercalary meristem which is responsible for the elongation of that internode, which is found, and this intercalary meristem in monocot is found at the base of the node, each node. Now again These meristematic cell tissues are divided into further groups on the basis of their origin. Now first one is a promeristem. A promeristem is a group of meristematic cell in an embryo or seedling which gives rise to the primary meristem. मीन्स जो प्रोमेरिस्टेम है वो ग्रुप ऑफ मेरिस्टेमेटिक सेल होते हैं जो कि इम्ब्रियो में होते हैं, जो कि प्राइमरी मेरिस्टेम को प्रोड्यूस करते हैं. This is the picture which shows the promeristem and protoderm. Now next type is primary meristem. प्राइमरी मेरिस्टेम इज फ्रॉम द प्रोमेरिस्टेम. मीन्स जो प्राइमरी मेरिस्टेम है वो प्रोमेरिस्टेम में से प्रोड्यूस होता है एंड द सेल प्रोड्यूस बाय देम इज डिफ्रेंशिएट इनटू प्राइमरी एंड सेकेंडरी परमानेंट टिश्यू. मीन्स जो सेल प्राइमरी मेरिस्टेम द्वारा प्रोड्यूस होते हैं वो प्राइमरी एंड सेकेंडरी परमानेंट टिश्यू में कन्वर्ट होते हैं. द एग्जाम्पल्स ऑफ प्राइमरी मेरिस्टेम्स आर एपिकल मेरिस्टेम, vesicular cambium and the intercalary meristem. The tissue system of root. In apical meristem is divided into dermal ground and it produces dermal ground and vascular tissue. Dermal tissue produce the epidermis and ground tissue produce the cortex known as cortex, and the vascular tissue which is known as, there is two type of vascular tissue. First one is a phloem and another one is a xylem. Now secondary meristem, which is the third type of meristem on the basis of their origin. Secondary meristem is formed at the later stage in the life of the plant. It forms the permanent tissue by process of de-differentiation. मीन्स जो ये सेकेंडरी मेरिस्टेम में होते हैं वो डी डिफ्रेंशिएशन के द्वारा अब प्राइमरी परमानेंट टिश्यू में से डी डिफ्रेंशिएट होकर कन्वर्ट होते हैं सेकेंडरी मेरिस्टेम में एंड रिगेन द कैपेसिटी टू डिवाइड. द एग्जांपल ऑफ सेकेंडरी मेरिस्टेम इज कॉर्क कैम्बियम एंड इंटरफेसिकुलर कैम्बियम. This image shows the vascular cambium, which is also a secondary meristem, and it is responsible for the increases in the width of the particular organ, for example stem. Now another type of tissue is permanent tissue. Permanent tissue are the tissues in which cells have lost the power of cell division and become structurally and functionally specialized. मीन्स ये जो परमानेंट टिश्यू होते हैं वो उनमें सेल डिवीज़न का पावर लॉस्ट हो जाता है और वो स्ट्रक्चरली एंड फंक्शनली मोर स्पेशलाइज हो जाते हैं. द सर्टेन कैरेक्टर्स आर सेल हैव लॉस्ट द पावर ऑफ सेल डिवीज़न एंड देन it undergo differentiation into specific type of particular function. Means this type of cells or tissue undergo into the differentiation and into a specific type for the particular function. Means कोई particular function करने के लिए वो particular type में convert हो जाते हैं. There is two type of permanent tissue. First one is the simple permanent tissue and the complex permanent tissue. Simple permanent tissue means the tissue which composed of only one type of cell, known as simple permanent tissue, where a complex permanent tissue means the tissue is composed of more than one type of cell. So this is the difference between simple permanent tissue and compound permanent tissue or complex permanent tissue. Permanent tissue are divided into two groups. First one is the simple permanent tissue and second one is a complex permanent tissue. Simple permanent tissue, there is three type or three examples. First one is a parenchyma tissue, cholenchyma tissue, and third one is the sclerenchyma tissue. And in complex permanent tissue, there is two different type of complex permanent tissue. First one is a xylem and second one is a phloem. So let us talk about simple permanent tissue. The first example is parenchyma. The characters of parenchyma are सेल आर थिन वॉल, मीन्स जो सेल होती है पैरेंकाइमेटस टिश्यू में वो थिन होती है. इट इज़ आइसोडायमेट्रिक एंड रिटेन द कैपेसिटी टू डिवाइड एट मैच्योरिटी एंड नो इंटरसेल्युलर स्पेस आर प्रेजेंट. The main function is the storage. The main function of parenchymatous tissue is to storage the food and other substance. When parenchyma cell contain the number of chloroplasts, they are known as sclerenchyma, and when they are arranged with the regular system of intercellular space, they constitute this type of tissues known as parenchyma tissue. Means they have the air space and it is found in the vascular plants. The form major component of any one organ of the plant. Means parenchymatous tissue are the one of the most abundant in a ground tissue for the food storage and storage of other substance. So this is the figure of parenchymatous tissue. It shows the thin cell wall and intercellular space, and vacuole also present in the parenchymatous cell. Now, second type of simple permanent tissue is sclerenchyma. The characters of sclerenchyma are cell living at maturity. Means जो cell होते हैं sclerenchyma के वो living at the maturity. Cells are variously shaped. मीन्स जो sclerenchyma के सेल होते हैं वो वेरियसली शेप होते हैं, डिफरेंट शेप होते हैं उसमें. सेल वॉल इज अनइवनली थिक. मीन्स जैसा कि हमने parenchyma में देखा था कि भाई सेल वॉल होती है वो थिन होती है, इवनली थिन होती है. वेयर इन sclerenchyma द सेल इज अनइवनली थिक. Then occur below the epidermis of dicot stem, and cell may process chloroplast provide, and this type of tissues provide the strength and flexibility to the growing organ. Means जो growing organ होते हैं उसमें वो flexibility and strength provide करते हैं. These are the cells of sclerenchyma, and this is the tissue sclerenchyma which shows in the figure. Now, third type of simple permanent tissue is sclerenchyma. The sclerenchyma cells are dead at maturity. Means जो sclerenchyma tissue होते हैं वो उसमें जो सेल होते हैं वो at maturity वो dead हो जाते हैं. And then the cell wall is lignified evenly. Means evenly उसमें cell wall में lignin होता है, जिसे हम बोलते हैं कि lignified cell wall होते हैं. It gives a mechanical support to the organs. Means it provides a mechanical support to stand for the organ or plant, to the organ or the plant. There is two types of sclerenchyma. First one is sclerites and second one is a fiber. Sclerites, also known as stone cell, it is a spherical or oval shape and have very thick cell wall with the narrow lumen, and it occur in a cell of nuts and in pulp of fruit, and it also occur in the tea leaves. Second type of sclerenchyma tissue is fibers. The fibers are elongated thick-walled cell and it generally occur in groups. Means जो ये fibers होते हैं वो elongated cells होते हैं with the thick cell wall, and they generally occur in a groups. It present in xylem, phloem, cortex and pericycle. So this is the figure of sclerenchyma cell. It shows the lignified cell wall. The second type of permanent tissue is complex permanent tissue. Complex permanent tissue means the tissues which is made up of many different types of cell known as complex permanent tissue. There is two type of complex permanent tissue. First one is a xylem and second one is a phloem. So let us first talk about a xylem. Xylem is a form of continuous channel. Means जो xylem होती है वो it form a continuous channel which transport the water and minerals in the plant for the plant. It provide the mechanical support too. Means with the transportation function it also provide the mechanical support to the plant. and it composed of tracheids elements, xylem parenchyma, and xylem fiber. And yes, most important is xylem vessels, which is mostly found in higher plants, that is angiosperms. Now let us see each cell one by one. First one is a xylem vessels, a long cylindrical tubular structure formed by the many cells. It is a vessels means it is the long cylindrical tubular structure which is found in a xylem, and end wall of the vessels members have either single large opening or perforation or a small opening. मीन्स जो ये वेसल्स होते हैं उसमें या तो लार्ज ओपनिंग होते हैं या तो स्मॉल ओपनिंग होते हैं, जिसे हम परफोरेशन भी बोलते हैं, और स्मॉल ओपनिंग भी होती है. एंड इट हैव लिग्निफाइड वॉल्स, मीन्स देयर इज लिग्निन प्रेजेंट इन द सेल वॉल ऑफ दिस वेसल्स, एंड दिस वेसल्स आर डेड एट मैच्योरिटी एंड found in only one group of plants, that is angiosperm, which is also known as most advanced group of plants. This is the pictures of xylem and phloem. If you focus on xylem, you will see the perforation plate on the vessels, and this is the vessels member. And in xylem there is different types of cell present. First one is a vessels, then tracheids, and more elongated cell is a fiber. Now next is xylem tracheids. Xylem tracheids are elongated cell and overlap one another at the sliding end. Means जो ये ट्रैकिड्स होते हैं वो एंड के नज़दीक एक दूसरे को ओवरलैप करते हैं, and do not have perforation plate. The perforation plate is only present in the vessels, where in tracheids perforation plate is absent. And most important character of this tracheids is they have thick lignified walls and they are dead at maturity. Means जब वो mature होते हैं तब वो dead हो जाते हैं. Now next cell in a xylem is xylem parenchyma. The characters of xylem parenchyma are they are thick and thin walled cellulose. मीन्स जो सेल वॉल होती है वो सेल्यूलोस से बनी होती है, एंड दे आर द ओनली लिविंग कंपोनेंट इन द xylem. मीन्स जो xylem होती है उसमें वो दिस parenchyma cell आर ओनली लिविंग सेल, वेयर अदर सेल्स आर डेड एट मैच्योरिटी, and it involved in the short distance transport, and it help in the storage of sugar, starch, lipid, and tannins. So this picture shows the xylem, LS of xylem, which shows the helical thickening and bordered pits. Now next cell which is found in xylem is fibers, which is also known as xylem fibers. The fibers are dead element, which means these cells are dead, and it provides the mechanical support to the xylem and plants. Xylem formed in a primary plant body by the procambium, which is known as primary xylem. Means जो xylem होती है वो प्राइमरी मेरिस्टेम या तो प्रोकैम्बियम से बनी होती है, उसे हम प्राइमरी xylem बोलते हैं. द फर्स्ट फ्रॉम द प्राइमरी xylem इज कॉल्ड प्रोटोxylem. मीन्स जो फर्स्टली प्रोड्यूस होती है जो xylem उसको हम बोलेंगे प्रोटोxylem, एंड लेटर जो xylem प्रोड्यूस होती है उसे हम बोलेंगे मेटाxylem. इन स्टेम प्रोटोxylem lies toward the pith and metaxylem towards the periphery. Such type of arrangement is called endarch. Means जब प्रोटोxylem होती है जो कि प्राइमरी फर्स्टली फॉर्म होती है वो पीथ के साइड में होती है, टुवर्ड्स पीथ होती है, उसे हम बोले, एंड मेटाxylem टुवर्ड्स द पेरीफेरी. दिस काइंड ऑफ अरेंजमेंट नोन एज एंडार्च. एंड इन रूट द प्रोटोxylem लाइज टुवर्ड द पेरीफेरी एंड मेटाxylem lies toward the pith. Such kind of arrangement known as exarch. So एग्जाम में ऐसा भी पूछ सकते हैं कि भाई रूट में कैसा अरेंजमेंट होता है xylem का, तो आंसर इज इट इज़ अ एक्सचार्ज kind of arrangement of xylem in the root, means in a exarch or in a root the protocambium प्रोटोजेलम लाइज टूवर्ड द पेरीफेरी, मीन्स जो प्रोटोजेलम होती है वो पेरीफेरी की तरफ होते हैं, एंड जो मेटाजेलम विच फॉर्म लेटर इज फ्रॉम टूवर्ड्स द pith which is known as exarch. The xylem constituted a form by the fascicular cambium consist of a secondary xylem, means जो fascicular cambium से फॉर्म होती है उसे हम बोलते हैं secondary xylem. Now next type of tissue of the complex permanent tissue is the phloem. The main function of phloem is to transport the food in the plant from the leaves to the storage organ. It is concerned with the transport of organic substance, and it composed of sieve elements, companion cell, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. First type of cell which is present in the phloem is sieve tube. It formed by elongated sieve tube members. जो sieve tube होती है वो sieve tube members से बनी होती है. The cross wall have number of perforation, means जो cross wall होती है उसमें number of perforation present होते हैं, and it mature sieve tube has peripheral cytoplasm, and the function are controlled by the nucleus of companion cell. मीन्स जो sieve tube का फंक्शन होता है वो कंट्रोल्ड बाय द न्यूक्लियस ऑफ कंपेनियन सेल. You can see in this picture that this is the picture of sieve tube cell element, and on the side of sieve tube element there is companion cell present, and the nucleus of this companion cell control the function of sieve tube element and the companion cell. And at the end of companion cell there is sieve plate is present, and this is the figure of sieve tube, and each cell in the sieve tube is known as sieve tube element. Now sieve cell, sieve area are formed to the occur throughout the end wall and lateral wall. Cells are living but lack nucleus, means sieve cell में न्यूक्लियस लिविंग होते हैं बट उसमें न्यूक्लियस नहीं होता. And it is found in lower vascular plants. This picture shows the sieve plate and sieve tube cell, and in the side of the sieve tube cell there is small companion cell is present. You can see in this picture. The purple color cell, which is a sieve tube cell, the main function of this cell is to transport the organic food, or we can say the food of the plants. Now next cell is companion cell. Companion cell, it is found in association with the sieve tube members. I have already mentioned when we study about sieve tube. So at the side of sieve tubes there is companion cell is present which have nucleus and control the function of these cells. Sieve tube element and companion cell are connected by pith field, मीन्स जो ये sieve tube एलिमेंट एंड कंपेनियन सेल होते हैं वो एक दूसरे से कनेक्टेड होते हैं बाय द pith fields and help in the maintaining the pressure gradient. Means this companion cell help this sieve tube element in the maintaining pressure gradient, which is more important in terms of transportation of food and water. You can see this sieve tube and at the side of sieve tube there is companion cell present with the dense cytoplasm and nucleus, and this sieve tube also have sieve plates. Now next is phloem parenchyma. Like xylem parenchyma, there is Parenchyma present in phloem known as phloem parenchyma. The cells are elongated and cylindrical. मीन्स जो phloem parenchyma cells होते हैं वो elongated and cylindrical होते हैं, जिसमें डेंस साइटोप्लाज्म एंड प्रोमिनेंट न्यूक्लियस होता है. मीन्स कि उसमें डेंस साइटोप्लाज्म एंड न्यूक्लियस होता ही होता है, प्रोमिनेंट न्यूक्लियस. एंड देन it stores the food material and other substances, and it is absent in monoclot plants. This picture shows the protoxylem and metaxylem. Now, next type of cell which is present in the phloem is fibers, which is also known as phloem fiber or bast fiber. The phloem fibers found along with the other elements of phloem, means कि ये जो phloem fiber होते हैं वो phloems के other elements के साथ ही होते हैं. It is a elongated and thick walled cell and it dead at maturity and it absent in the primary phloem. means जब जो primary phloem होते हैं उसमें ये fibers absent होते हैं. First from primary phloem it's known as protophloem and later formed is known as metaploem. Like we also mentioned in xylem that first forming xylem is known as a protoxylem, and later which xylem form is known as metaxylem. Likewise in phloem, the first forming phloem is known as protoploem and later formed phloem is known as metaploem. Element formed by the fascicular cambium constitute the secondary phloem. means जो एलिमेंट अब फेसिकुलर कैम्बियम प्रोड्यूस करती है वो सेकेंडरी फ्लोएम प्रोड्यूस करती है. नाउ दिस इज द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ फ्लोएम. It shows the sieve element, companion cell which is present in pair and then parenchyma and fibers. Now let us see the tissue system in plants. Means there is different tissue system which is present in the plant, which are epidermal tissue system, vascular tissue system and then ground or fundamental tissue system. Epidermal tissue system means the tissue which present outside the organ or body of the plant is known as epidermal cell. Epidermal tissue system which formed by the epidermal cell. Then vascular tissue system. Vascular tissue system means the tissue which transport the water and minerals. The function of this vascular tissue system is to transport the waters and food, which is made up of xylem and phloem. Then the third type of tissue system is to ground tissue system, or we can say fundamental tissue system. The main function of this ground tissue system is to transport water and foods for the plant. In the cross section of root you can see in this picture that it shows the different layers or different tissue system in the plant. The first outermost tissue system in the cross section of root is dermal tissue system, which is made up of epidermal cell, and the main function of this epidermal cell is to protect the internal structure of plant. And then inner side of the dermal tissue there is ground tissue present. The main function of ground tissue is to photosynthesis or storage of food. And then inner side the ground tissue there is always vascular tissue or vascular bundles, or we can say vascular tissue system is present, which is composed of xylem and phloem, and the main function of this vascular tissue is to transport the water and food for the plants. The first tissue system is the epidermal tissue system. So let us see the certain characters of epidermal tissue system, and these characters are: it forms the outermost covering of the plant body. Means the outermost covering of the होती है वो एपिडर्मल टिश्यू सिस्टम होता है. इट कंसिस्ट द एपिडर्मल सेल, एपिडर्मल अपेंडेजेस एंड स्टोमेटा. Epidermis is the outermost layer and epidermis is a single layered cells type of cell or tissue. Each cell has small amount of cytoplasm and large vacuole. Means जो epidermal cell होते हैं उसमें small amount of cytoplasm होता है और a large vacuole होता है. Each outer surface is covering with the thick layer which is made up of cuticle and it prevents the water loss from the aerial part of the plant. Then epidermis is interrupted by small pore known as stomata, and stomata is surrounded by two guard cells, and these guard cells are only cells in the epidermal layer which have the chloroplast and having a photosynthetic function. Guard cells are bean shaped in dicot plant and dumbbell shaped in monocot plants. Means we know that the angiosperm groups is divided into two groups. First one is a monocot and other one is a dicot. So in dicot the shape of stomata is bean shape or kidney shape, and in a monocot the shape of the stomata is dumbbell shape. The outer wall is thin and inner wall is thick. मीन्स जो गार्ड सेल होते हैं उसमें आउटर वॉल थिन होती है एंड इनर वॉल जो होती है वो थिक होती है. दे प्रोसेस अ क्लोरोप्लास्ट एंड कैरी आउट द photosynthesis. As already I mentioned that this guard cell are only cells which present in the epidermis having the chloroplast and it perform the photosynthesis. And the stomatal apertures is made up of stomatal aperture, guard cell and surrounding by the epidermal cell. Epidermis also bear appendages like if we talk about root, then in the root there is root hair present which is unicellular elongated portion from the epidermal cell of the root. Appendages on the stems are called trichomes. Means जो appendages stem के ऊपर होते हैं उसे हम बोलेंगे trichomes, which helps in preventing the water loss by transpiration and gradual and secretory in many glandular and secretory cell or cell present in the many plants. This is the cross section of root which shows the root hair, vascular cambium, primary phloem, primary xylem, pericycle and endodermis. And outermost layer is epidermis and cortex and the root hair which develop from the epidermis. Now next type of tissue system is vascular tissue system. It includes the xylem and phloem. We know that what is the function of xylem and what is the function of phloem. They occur at the discrete stand called vascular bundles. Means ये जो xylem and phloem होते हैं वो discrete stand में होती है जिसे हम vascular bundles बोलते हैं. Occur along the same radius. The vascular bundle is known as कोलेटरल. मीन्स जो xylem and phloem होती है वो सेम रेडियस में होती है तो उसे हम बोलेंगे कोलेटरल vascular bundle. Then when strip of cambium is present between the xylem and phloem is known as open vascular bundles. Means जो xylem and phloem होती है उसके बीच में अगर कैम्बियम है तो हम उसे उस टाइप के अरेंजमेंट को हम ओपन वास्कुलर बंडल्स बोलते हैं. And when no cambium is present between the xylem and phloem, this type of arrangement known as closed type of vascular bundle which is present in the monocot. Two phloem poles occur in a vascular bundle separated from the central xylem. Means जो टू फ्लोएम के पोल्स होते हैं वो xylem की वजह से जिसमें xylem सेंट्रल में होती है जिसकी वजह से वो सेपरेट होते हैं जिसे हम बोलेंगे कि बाइकोलेटरल वास्कुलर बंडल. Then xylem and phloem occur along the different radius alternating with each other, known as radial vascular bundle. When protoxylem is toward the periphery and metaxylem is toward the center, is known as exarch. मीन्स जब प्रोटोजेलम बाहर की तरफ होती है तो आप उसको बोलेंगे एक्सार्च, एंड व्हेन प्रोटोजेलम इज टुवर्ड द सेंटर इज नोन एज एंडार्च. This is the figure of plant and it shows the TS of plant stem, which shows the cambium and cork cambium and cork, and it also shows the phloem and the xylem portion. The outermost layer of the stem is the bark. Now, third type of tissue system is a ground tissue system. Ground tissue are all the tissue except epidermis and vascular bundles. Means प्लांट में जितने भी जो भी टिश्यू होते हैं एक्सेप्ट एपिडर्मिस और वास्कुलर बंडल. मीन्स वास्कुलर बंडल और एपिडर्मिस के अलावा जो भी टिश्यू होते हैं प्लांट्स में उसे हम बोलेंगे ग्राउंड टिश्यू. इट कंसिस्ट ऑफ सिंपल परमानेंट टिश्यू. Parenchyma cell present in the cortex, pericycle, pith and medullary rays. Ground tissue present in leaves are mesophyll. So this is the again cross section of stem. It shows the xylem and phloem, and the vascular tissue or ground tissue. The dermal tissue is the epidermis. So here we completed our chapter anatomy of flowering plant with the piece. So in next class we will discuss about another chapter. So thank you students.